Okay, and as well, hey, welcome everybody. Once again, we have another session. Hey, thank you for coming. And today we're gonna just check the bank reconciliation accounts, how to do it and how to perform it in Business Central, right? Okay, let's just go now to the topic. Hey, this will be more or less 1 hour session, right? Hey, you can raise your hand, interrupt me, or at the end as well as I'm gonna make it. I'm gonna dedicate some time for specific questions. Okay, so let's go there. We can perform bank reconciliation, yes, to make sure that your various business transactions and expenses are reflected correctly in the company books, right? We do this by comparing basically and matching entries in our internal bank accounts, of course, that we have in Business Central with postal transactions and bank transactions at your bank. And then posting the balances to your internal bank account to make totals available to finance managers, basically, right? So bank reconciliation is also a practical way to discover and resolve missing payments and bookkeeping errors. Okay, so the following webinar will be covering this topic, and we also have another exercise that we call the payment reconciliation, but today we're just going to check the how to do it with our bank, the bank reconciliation. Okay. So let's just go and check our bank accounts. In order to actually navigate in Business Central, we have for today the screen for the accountant, by the way. From here, we can just immediately go to the bank accounts, or as well, we have a tool, so we don't have to learn from scratch all the menus in this new ERP if we are learning from scratch. Well, just by looking and having a keyword and tell me what to do to function, we are going to be able to just immediately go to the place we want, right? Basically that is like a browser on the internet. So from here, I can see 3 bank accounts that I actually use. One of it actually, let me see, the one has got balance. Okay. Here, I'm just checking the bank account card for the Worldwide Bank. And here we have just basically general data, right? The branch and the bank account and so forth. Very important for us today is to understand the balance. So the idea is that we are going to see now how the different transactions that we post, for instance, I can see some payments here. I know by definition, and we can set it up for you. You have some payment journals with a specific number, and here these are actually my checks that I have a number according to my checkbook that I have in my company for this bank account. So important about the statement as well. Well, general information for communications only, and for us. Here we have the number of the last statement we just did. You just need to put that number in the configuration of the bank account card. And here we have the last check that we just printed, right? So as well, we can edit this number. These are just manual numbers. And as well, what happened here from where we get this actual balance, if I just click on it, 37,000, is because this will be the entries, payments, or cash receipts that I have currently for this bank. And well, the total balance is just depicted here in this value, but this basically that we have all the transactions. And for now, I can see, well, I have some invoices, have received some money, some payments, as well some movements. Maybe these are for fixed assets, right? Laptop, this is a car, open bar, and so forth. And then, well, all this information will be then generating the balance that we are going to need to reconcile in the end to check that information. And by this moment, you would need just to get your bank statement, right, from your actual bank. So we are going to then be able to perform according to the figures that we see, perform the reconciliation. So from here, the idea is that we are going to open immediately from the cash management section. This is, by the way, the role screen for the accountant. Just for you to know The role that you see here is containing all information only for accountant. Like you can see here, finance, general journals, fixed assets, and so forth, right? This is just a screen, and we have more than 50 different screens, maybe for your purchasers, salespeople, and so forth. And from here as well, if you want, you can then set up security permissions to avoid people to do specific things that you don't want to. So behind the screen, because from here I could go anywhere, this is just visual, we as well set up security. And this is how then I'm gonna get these different menus for the accountant, where I'm just going to be able to select all this information. Cash management is where all the banking procedures actually just reside. Okay, from here we could do a deposit, we could do a payment journal, cash receipt journal if you want to receive money from customers. And all these operations then will be or could be done by selecting a bank account and make the deposit immediately or make the payment using the bank account. So that's why in this very moment, all these operations actually are going to flow through the bank account sub-ledger that is actually linked to a GL account, all right? And from here, then we have the bank account reconciliation. So in this menu, we have it all, okay, for the cash management. Here, what I need to do is just open the bank account reconciliation for the first time. Okay, this is now our bank account reconciliation window. The idea here is that you just need to select the bank account desired. Remember that I had 3, so I'm going to select just the checking and the statement date. Immediately, I got from the bank account the information that was recalled, like the statement, last statement number that is currently generated, which is the number 24. Okay. Once we just have this information, well, this is just a header, right? And the idea is that we just need to select the bank. We don't have to do anything else. And immediately, we're going to get the following information. In the bank account ledger entries, is basically all the information that we have in our GL account currently that hasn't yet been reconciled, okay? And here we're gonna see the description, the amount for all these transactions, and the remaining amounts for those open entries that weren't yet completed. And from all these transactions come from our GL account once again, but they haven't yet been reconciled. And here is the total balance, remember? And as well, total and outstanding. So this is the only for checks when we have just printed and provide them, because we as well try to follow up and separate just for the general transactions what was provided in check, because it contains a number. So basically we need to reconcile both, but in the end the check part is just informational as well. But here we have then the second window in the left. Here is where I'm going to be now inserting. If I have my bank statement in front of me, maybe you can download it from your website, because we as well can import that file immediately. But before going to that part, I want to show you how I would just do a transaction manually. What is the concept? What type of fields we have. Here, the idea is that we are going to compare what we have in Business Central in the right side, and then compare it to what we are going to feed in the left window. Let me show you. For instance, today, 24 March, I would then receive or in my statement, I would need to update all of the lines in this window, right? So you might introduce, input a bank account ledger entry, a check, or a difference, okay? So it's quite obvious what is a bank account, what is a check ledger. So maybe you would decide, okay, payment, reference, any number, right? And then you will need the amount, the actual amount. So that is part of your statement. And from here, the idea is that I'm going to have a difference. The difference is because I haven't yet reconciled my new line against the left or against my the operations that I have in Business Central, correct? So here's why I still see this as a difference, okay? I haven't yet any match against the right window, which I'm going to show you now how to do that. Now, the idea now is as well that you could perform a check ledger entry. So for that matter, then you will need just the check number that is actually in your bank account statement, and differences. Difference are are lines that we don't calculate basically in Business Central, like your fees, bank fees. Well, they are just provided only in each statement by your bank. So this will be the monthly fee, all right, for maybe the account, so for the year. At the end, we need to provide, and as well, what else? Interests as well would be another type of transactions that we don't calculate, of course, in Business Central. But this is the way we're going to do it. And then if we need to compare the left side against the right side, then we're going to need at some point to post these transactions by using a journal, by the way, so we can see it. Remember, the right side shows what we have posted in our in our GL account. Okay, so let me just delete this to show you some of the other menus. This is just, let's say, the introduction, okay? And now we're just gonna use the totals that we see here and the differences, okay? Because in the end, all the transactions that we input, like I just did, are going to generate a total that should be exactly the same as you have in your statement, correct? And the total difference will then guide us through what in comparison will be different from our actual calculated values by the transactions we have posted in Business Central. Okay, now, for now, this would be the structure of this document. And then I will then click on process to see the options that we have in order to proceed with the further reconciliation exercise. First of all, I have the suggest line functions. The idea is that we can even, you might think, okay, maybe some of the transactions that I posted were correct in my real bank. The idea is that, well, you're going to receive payments that you can indicate to your customers, please deposit in this bank account, or all the way around. You're going to use your bank account to pay to some vendors, correct? So in the end, yes, of course, that some of the transactions will be exactly just the same as your accountants have posted through the journals that we have in Business Central. And this is exactly what the suggest lines function does. You might be thinking, okay, all the operations that I did in Business Central, in the end, I actually, through the time, tried to make it similar to what I really have in the bank, right? All the operations that were possible, maybe the date wouldn't be the same. For instance, if you have stores where you cash out from the drawer the money and deposit, then 2 or 3 days later, the money in the bank or from your customers or even your vendors, you provide a check, but they don't cash it, okay? So then you need to wait even sometimes months, okay? And that will be something that you will need to understand that is going to happen often. And specifically, sometimes even checks were printed incorrectly or with errors. So then later, not all the transactions will be coming. And then in order to use this function, suggest lines, is just going to now use the same information that I have in my GL account or in the right window and populate, so I can then have a draft version of what my reconciliation would be, correct? That's the idea of the suggest line. Transfer to general journal. It helps me to, remember that I inputted a line that is a differences for my fees and interest. Well, the idea is that I told you that you would need, in order, if they are in your bank account statement, but they are not in Business Central, well, you could populate immediately here in this window and click on transfer to general journal, which I'm going to show you in a moment, because, well, from here we can open a journal with the information that was inserted here in this window to immediately transfer to your to the system, right? That will be the general idea. Then we have the bank. In the bank section, we can open the bank account card for any query that we want to see once again, or import bank statement. We can import our files, okay, SEPA files or so to speak, if your bank provides you specific services for you, maybe you can download an Excel or a CSV or something like that, and that will be then giving you the chance to import the bank statement immediately without you having to type the way I just did it. Okay, and then now in the posting section is well after in the end when we want to just make some when we want to register. Okay, so let me just start with the functions of populating, and then I'm going to the second step will be reconcile the operations. Okay, so for me, the first thing that I would need to do is just click and process. You saw how I actually input manual information, and then now let's use the suggest lines function. What this is going to do if I just click here, suggest lines, is that it's going to now go and review all the transactions that were not yet reconciled, and we mark every transaction for your bank that, in this function is going to now review what has been reconciled in order to now populate these entries. So for that, then we just need a starting date and an ending date. Okay, if you see these dates, I'm actually currently in April because I have a specific license for Microsoft for this environment, right? So that's why I'm currently in April. That's fixed for me. I'm sorry for that, but in this very moment, the demo license is actually just for that, okay? Because I cannot show you, of course, any other database. Now, exclude reversed entries, okay, is just explanatory, and include checks as well. You can do so. Okay, or first reconcile only transactions, but later in the second exercise, we could include checks. Okay, now let me just click OK, and just immediately you're gonna see how everything is populated for the transactions that I could still edit. And guess what? Immediately everything is green. Okay, it was changed because the idea of the actual reconciliation is that automatically, once we populate this, is going to look for what Business Central can automatically reconcile for us. What happened here then is that it's going to look at these transactions. For instance, I can see this purchase of this Mercedes-Benz, right? Or if it's maintenance, I don't know. It's a purchase, okay? So, okay, through a demo, we purchase with a credit debit card of Mercedes-Benz. Okay, we're doing good today in the company. And well, transaction date. Here we are going to need this actual date. Then we're going to need the description, mandatory once again, and the statement amount. Only these three fields are used to then look in the GL entries that we have, once again, in the right side. And hereby, because, well, it was just basically a copy paste. Okay, that's something that I want to clarify. But then, just to understand why these lines are now green is because we found that the same date, the same description, and the same amount were actually just matched, and then it was immediately just in green. Okay, this is how the Business Central help us to work. So we compare the screens, and just by the way, if it's too small for you, why not to open in Excel? Okay, I love it. I prefer to work always in Excel. We have a very good integration with Office tools. Let me explain you this because I'm going to work now in Excel. The idea is that in the cloud Business Central, okay, this is in the cloud flavor that I'm showing, okay? And here I have all different integration with Office tools. Let me just, why not to give you a bonus about this, and Power BI or Power Apps. Power Apps is a great Microsoft product to create your own applications in Android and communicate with Business Central. Also in Teams, for instance, is one of our tools. Like we are actually, it is the substitution of, do you remember Skype, right? The idea is that now we have Teams where we can generate things. First of all, the same chat, okay, where we have calls, video calls, right? And as well, I can, in my chat, share Business Central information. Very good. Okay, and as well, I have some teams. That's why this is called Teams, where we can integrate different, so to speak, group of people in my company. For instance, I'm a consultant, so I'm doing the implementation project from where I can as well have posts like Facebook does, files, well, just files and wikis. Okay, wikis are like, so to speak, your articles that are really important for you and your team. And guess what? From Business Central as well, you can post or make new comments or notifications. I don't know, to your team. So basically, when I just actually continue to work within my bank reconciliation, why not to, once you understand the integration part, I could even share the teams, okay? So maybe with my accountant teams, yes, I would generate a new teams only for maybe treasury department, something like that, and share this before actually completing the process. So from here, you could select which team or which person you want to actually see this. So this will be for the general team and my company, and just immediately sharing it. Okay, so we have now integrations with this type of other tools. One of them, of course, is Office. All right, now let's go back. What I have just done, because once again, I will be working in every reconciliation maybe with 100, 200 lines, maybe. It's up to well, it depends on the operation that I have. Once I then open my Excel, I'm going to see exactly the same information that I inputted before. All right. So from here as well, look at all the lines that were actually just reconciled. It's better for me because, well, I like to work better in Excel. This happens for general journals. This happens for invoices, purchase orders, and so forth. Well, all of us, we work in the ERP, right? And well, just integration with Excel allow us to do so because, for instance, for me, I love the drag and drop tools or copy paste or, well, something like this, or from here, if it's easier for you and if you have an Excel or XML file, well, why not to copy paste and put it in here and it will be then updated back in Business Central. But I love drag and drop, copy paste, or accommodating my columns. I work more, it's naturally for me as an accountant to work like this here and then coming back instead of having to come into this window and let me input once again another fee where I would then interests earn for March. Okay, this is very then slow, at least from my point of view. But anyway, we're gonna need to input manual information, yes or yes. Oh, sorry, this is not only in the. Oh no, it's okay. It's a difference that I have. And then once I was mentioning, well, it's not very good to work manually. Remember, this training is not regarding like what is a bank reconciliation. We must understand that we just now going to see how we just do it in Business Central, right? That would be the idea, which tools we have that are going to facilitate our work on a daily basis. So coming from this actual line that is not green anyway, is because I have just seen it in my sorry, in my bank account statement, but I don't see it in my GL accounts, okay? So as well, I see one transaction that was not included here, right? So maybe I just forgot to make a deposit or a payment in the real bank, all right? So it is not yet reconciled. And as well, another different scenario is that, yes, I have information calculated by the bank, like commissions, fees, interests for your investments.
You gotta stop talking to them.
Yes, any question, by the way? Please raise your hand. Well, at this moment, it's maybe just the initial part. But, well, anyway, this line, well, that I have just inputted because I just saw it in my bank. In my bank, in my bank reconciliation statement, I would need to transfer it to post it in Business Central. You can inform, okay, to your accountants, please, here's my statement, complete all the operations, okay, in the end. But you would need to give them the information coming from this and share it maybe in Teams so they can see all the transactions that were not yet posted. Or from here, use the transfer to general journal function. And from here as well, what we're gonna be doing is just copy pasting that same information and immediately Business Central understand this is a payment journal, right? We're going to be paying now, but using two things. The bank charges and fees account. This is automated by you, but anyway, you can still edit it because we have other type of operations, processing fees, bad debt expenses, and so forth. Okay, I just segregate this type of operations normally, but then in the end, your amounts, okay, will be here. And then the same bank account is used. This is the checking bank, basically. Okay, so there is no other difference. Here for these transactions, I'm going to change. This would be the processing fees. Okay. So two bank accounts, the expense accounts, using now the information that we inputted first in our directly from our bank reconciliation, right? So we don't have to open a general journal and then or communicate somebody else what we are reconciling. We can do just everything in just one step. Okay. Now that I have posted these new entries that were not yet before, then I'm going to be able to see the bank charges and fees entries. Okay, so here as well, automatically, once I post it reconciles automatically. Business Central understands that we move from my reconciliation to Business Central and immediately put it in green. So it's reconciled, okay, automatically. And that's the idea. Basically, that will be what it does, okay? And from here, we will need to start reconciling. So where is this bank charges and fees $10? Why is not in my statement? We will need to ask to the bank what's going on there. Or what always happens is that maybe, for instance, this open entry, 31,000. The idea is that yes, when I open this bank account, I deposited money to start my operations. But in the end, you might have deposited different entries. Okay, this is one single GL entry in Business Central, but in the real bank, you would have maybe deposited 2 or 3 different deposits through the month to complete this amount. So that won't, then those transactions will be reconciled because they won't have, once again, the date, the description, or the amount. So you will need to use the functions in order to match automatically. Manually remove matches and look for matching details. Let me show you that. But before we started to reconcile, we as well have another function. Let me just delete this line for a second, because we as well can import from a CSV or we can import from your actual website. If you want, we can integrate as well, which is, to be honest, more cumbersome, requires more effort. It's a very complex customization, and only if the banks actually offer that service to connect online. This is done once again through web services because we are working in the cloud. But this option actually is really helpful as well. Import bank statement. Let me just show you the idea. So you can then ask for this information. We can implement it, but you get actually real information. The idea is that, okay, I can see some checking statement. Okay, from here, let me just preview this window. Very good. I have 2 files, okay? We could use actually XLS, which is Excel, or we can just as well use CSV files in order to actually import information. What is the difference? And I'm going to show you the idea. Provided by your bank, you're going to receive a file, the statement could be, or maybe if you have a website, you can maybe copy the information, right? And bring it to an Excel. Either if it's the first or the second, what we're gonna do, maybe here you won't see perfectly the info. Better. Okay, so by previewing my Excel file, I can see that I have some transactions. Once again, when we need yes or yeses to see the transaction date, the description, and the amount. Okay, this is basically what we need, and of course the currency, right? Because you might be operating in other currencies. I forgot to mention that every bank account carries only one single currency, yes or yes. It's like your real bank, correct? So when you open a bank account, you can ask for the actual currency that you have in your different countries. But the idea for us in this type of operation is that we are going to need these mandatory fields, yes or yes. And your bank account is going to give you another formats, another fields, another columns, plenty of information. But at least give us these 4 columns so we can prepare the automation for you, so you don't have to input manually any line in the bank account reconciliation, right? So you get the idea. Now, the other step then I was mentioning is that we can just show the CSV. This is the CSV file for those of you who do not work technically with integrations or anything like that. Some of you that are not then admins, this is just a light version of an Excel. This is what the CSV is. Basically, it's the same information, but using, so to speak, just text, the notepad. It's a lighter version, right? Just basically, this information, instead of columns, is just separated by columns, giving me the actual information, date, description, the amounts, the currency you can see here. Well, you can read now the file or the information that is in there. But that's the difference, right? And from here, how then we work? In Business Central, we just choose from the actual import a bank reconciliation function. We just click and choose, and yes, it's just exactly what I just did before. Verify our documents, and then look for your CSV or Excel file. You can use any one you want, because we just configure this in advance from you. I'm going to show you as well the design that we did for this type of template. And here we're going to have this information once again imported automatically, right? So from here, this will be really good, because from here, I would immediately, let's see, from this old file, actually, this is a very old file that I actually found out, but use the function match automatically. This is to check the other menu, okay? So once again, start learning, we have the import bank statement and the card, and from here, I would use the match automatically function. The idea is that I have information that I posted in Business Central, and I imported my bank account statement electronic version, but I want to match. The idea is that I know that because of on a regular basis, my operations are not actually cashed immediately from the bank or deposited once I receive the money, or my customers as well, when they make a payment for me, they do it maybe 3, 4, 5, 1 week later or something like that. Okay, so we are going to start reconciling, given a tolerance date. What will be the real world against what my accountant did in Business Central? Maybe we have a 4 or 5 day difference, something like that. Okay, so by clicking OK, then the reconciliation matching account only found 2 reconcile lines from this actual file in green immediately. Okay, so once again, he is checking the information, the amounts, and the dates. Okay, only 2 lines from that file. Very, very poor, but that's okay. Okay, the idea is that, because if you can see here, Mercedes-Benz is actually, oh, I see the error. Okay, yeah. The idea is that I have actually a 1 entry for Mercedes-Benz, and I have here once again my Mercedes-Benz entry. Okay, the amount is 35,000. And here's 35,000. What happens here is that, look what information this file has. It's currently having the date of January, right? And from what I see here, my accountant posted this information in August, okay? So my file, I would say, just for the demo, it's incorrect. But it doesn't matter, you can come here and then match manually, and I would correct, of course, this date, because this is not correct in my actual file. This type of operations, you need to do them oftenly, right? You would need to do then these corrections of descriptions. If you identify them, okay? If you identify, come and verify the description, the date, or, well, whatever, and start reconciling automatically, okay? And then guess what? It just reconciled for me. This is a good way. Now, sometimes what happens here is that we are not going to be just by changing descriptions or the amount we're making corrections in order to use the automated functions. We are not going to complete the reconciliation that way only, okay? The idea is that we are going to need to actually verify the entries one by one, reconcile them, clean data maybe, and then being able to match manually by selecting the line in the left and by selecting another line in the right window, and then click on match manually function to then make Business Central match this line or against this one, or why not matching more lines, right, against just one in the right side or vice versa. That's possible as well. Okay, so this is the actual process of reconciliation. And if you, let's say, so to speak, is quite small, this area, or it's quite cumbersome to see the total, because yes, you have multiple lines. I have seen reconciliations with 1,000, 2,000 lines. So from here, I would immediately do use the matching functions, for instance, to show all or only show the not matched lines. But because in the end, what I would do is run the automatically function to reconcile automatically the majority of lines, and then only show me those lines that were not yet reconciled. That, as you can see, were just it just removed the green lines and just left only the lines that were not yet reconciled, only to continue doing the same operations I have been just doing, correct? And that would be the idea. The last option from my palette in the actions for matching would be just removing, okay? So of course you can just come and remove any match that you have done because, okay, maybe this is completely incorrect. I don't want to, I'm not even sure if when I change because it just says Mercedes-Benz, it will be okay to match it, okay? I need to be sure, so maybe I just want to remove those matches, okay? It's not a problem once again. You can just come here and make your corrections at any given moment, match and rematch and so forth, because that will be a daily operation that you will need to do. And remember, filters, they show all or a show only the not matched, so you can just start filtering this window. All right, so that is basically the idea about reconciling. Sorry. And that's the process that we just generally do. From here, the idea is that once again, we're going to need to see the totals. Okay, I have a lot of information that I have imported from an old file, so I can see the total here that currently, if I try to pause, because I know that is completely different to what I currently have in my system, in my GL account, you could try to pause from here. Do you want to pause the reconciliation? And I will click yes, okay? And this is going to tell me that I have yet a difference, basically, okay? And this is a process that I would need to follow until I just complete my differences. And guess what? Only with what I have just inputted here. This is what it's looking for. Reconcile all the lines that you have inputted. Or in the American version, and if you want to use it, we can enable for you that where the reconciliation is super restrictive and you cannot post it. If as well, the second option is that you cannot post it until you process all the transactions that you have actually inputted in your GL account. Okay, this is the American way. This is how they do it in the USA, Mexico as well, where we will need to reconcile each line that we have in our system to be able to post it. Or the European way allows us to actually just reconcile what we have inputted here, and as well maybe tomorrow, well, if you left open entries that you haven't yet finished, reconcile that are currently here. For instance, as an example, my open entry is not even reconciled. Let me just show you what will be the type of example that I'm explaining. Let me just delete for 1 second this and okay. I have lines, okay, but even though I have reconciled all my lines, I can see the opening entry is not yet
reconcile because, well, maybe I just forgot to input that information. Believe me, it happens. Okay, so what would you do here is just tell us which version you would like. Restrictive, you cannot leave the actual reconciliation unless you reconcile even the open entry or just any other general or any other line we posted in Business Central. Or the European way is actually just use what you fit here. You need to reconcile and in the end, you could end up with entries that are still open, but that you will be reconciling in your next exercise, correct? And that could be allowed as long well, we recommend that you post the majority of entries that you want at least for every month and maybe in the end of the month, because that happens oftenly. We in Treasury understand that we do after we close the fiscal period, right? We are still operating, we are still receiving payments that should go to the previous month and so forth, and that affects us, right, in the end. So we might end up doing the bank reconciliation 3 or 4 days after our closing process. And that's okay, we are allowed to do so if you need it, and that will be the second type of restriction. So it's up to you how you want to manage this part. So, okay, the last part would be for me to actually, once I have reconciled, verify that, okay, this is okay, I can live with this opening entry, I will be reconciling in the next exercise before the end of the month or after the end of the month, because I haven't yet completed the opening entries that I did in Business Central because I was doing an implementation and I never had the time. So maybe I would now need to transfer funds to this bank account for the total of 31,000. Okay, and then that will be completed the actual exercise. Now, what happened here now is in the end, for every statement that we do, we're gonna get a total. The statement ending balance is just basically here. This will be for now, and we need to pay attention in this. Will be my final balance. The total of all of these transactions is just here, right? Minus 2,704 and then from here I would finish with one specific ending balance that in the other exercise that I do, if I do a second reconciliation tomorrow or by the end of the month, then I would need an initial balance last statement, okay, for the next exercise. Then the statement ending balance will be used in this way. So from here, before posting as well, we need to check for the reconciliation the actual, let me see, posting, where is my report? Basically, I'm looking for a test report. Here it is. By the way, just another idea of reconciling, then just when I want to see my test, what is being reconciled currently, I have my bank account, the bank last statement number, and you can immediately print it or send to somebody else to see it through Outlook. Okay, I'm gonna click on preview so we can see this report. So you can share information at any given moment within Business Central. Then, okay, my bank account statement is just here, okay? So far, what I did is that I have a statement ending balance, okay? And then the GL balance that I had, of course, remember that and verify that information. And from here, as well, I'm gonna finalize with positive and negative adjustments once you post interests, fees, and so forth, right? Information that is coming from your bank. So we are going to see all the figures that we have, the actual balance by the actual dates, okay? Because you're going to begin with what balance, and then in the end, with the adjustments, we are going to then change the balance for those accounts. And then outstanding bank transactions, outstanding checks that we haven't yet reconciled, and that will be super important for us, okay? We need to understand what we haven't yet reconciled, if it was just a general deposit or it is related actually to checks. Okay, so currently by separating this, then we're going to get a total to see where specifically is my error if I have, and then I will be then seeing all the lines that I'm actually just reconciling here in this total. But so in this report, and every time we post a statement, we're going to get all the same information, just the transactions that we have just reconciled in this exercise. And from here, you could print it as well if you want. Okay, so this is a test report that we have. Okay, and you can as well just send it, PDF, Microsoft Word. You can select not only Excel, but we have other type of formats that you can just use. Maybe the Microsoft Excel document data and layout, or maybe only the data, and that will be it, right? So while you export to Excel and you continue working, well, you're going to be able now as well to share this information after your reconciliation as an evidence, or save it for yourself and so forth, right? And that will be then the idea. And look how this beautiful report is now then generated once again with the actual format. And this is really good for me because yes, I'm going to need them to sometimes make some analysis that are going to help me. Okay, maybe this 16,000 is part of a batch that I deposited before, so I'm going to mark it with one color, and the other batch will be deposited marked, I don't know, in pink. And well, but this is why we use the test report, so you can continue and finalize any final entry that you get. And then in the end, we just post and print, which will give you the actual report, the final report. Okay, and just posting the actual reconciliation is going to then finish our exercise for today. Just to finalize what we just did. The bank account then handles all the information, once again, that we have coming from our entries. Here's my balance last statement. The next, my last statement was number 24, and the last check is here, 204. And we have, just to mention, integrated this is a subledger of the real GL account 10100. Okay, if I open that GL account, let me see, where I move to my chart accounts. Just to finalize for today, I have my checking account, here it is. Okay, and the idea is that all the information that is posted in this account is mapped one-to-one with my bank subledger. Okay, so we have a relationship one-to-one with my GL account. Okay, but instead of just checking the information in my GL, which will be basically the credit debits, here in the subledger we save more information, like the ledger entries that I showed you, the statements we just completed, and of course the check ledger entries. These are the electronic version of my checkbook, where I can see all the checks that I have delivered. And from here, whenever I need, I could check as well my statements that I have totally posted, because sometimes I would need to once again verify what I did. Here are just the same, it's just the same information that I just used. But if I did something completely wrong, or maybe, you can undo your bank account statement. Maybe it was just for a training purpose, you accidentally posted, or you forgot in the end that today was not the reconciliation day in the end, correct? So you can just come and undo your reconciliation without problems, okay? And this is going to ask you, do you want to reverse this bank statement and automatically create a new bank reconciliation with the same information? This is a good feature, because I spent 2-3 hours even with these tools. Maybe I spent a few hours to reconcile this. Okay, so yes, please delete it, because I will only make a couple of corrections, and we at Microsoft already thought about it, so we don't lose all the work that we did. And once again, we just open my reconciliation once again to maybe now complete, and I just maybe forgot to input one of the transactions related to a check ledger entry that I forgot to input in Business Central, or a new different fee, interest earned, commission that I just forgot to include, and so forth. Continue now inputting information in this screen. And this is how we would do the bank reconciliation process in Business Central using the different tools. And thank you very much for coming. Hopefully we can get we can see next week, and in every webinar we share information with interest topics like this. Okay, so if you don't have any more questions, then thank you very much for coming. My name is Noé once again, and if you want, please we can share these videos, more material, or please write me if you I have a question. Yes, you're gonna receive confirmation containing information for the webinar if you need it. Okay. I have a very interesting question. You forgot to add, but rather forgot to remove a transaction. Very good. Yes. Okay. I just reversed, by the way, previously. Thank you for the question. I just committed a mistake with any given transaction, but if I even posted it, okay. But in this way, once we as well, we can do two things. We can just reopen. When I have here, there is a question. What happens with an operation that we just forgot to remove, okay? To remove a transaction. If I'm understanding well the question, we could do two things. Reverse, like I did your actual reconciliation, or as well, if you know that you have an incorrect coming from the operation, right? If you know that you have, okay, you're doing the reconciliation. And just if somebody asks, maybe I have the processing fees transaction that I posted here is just, look, I access to the GL account where you could act automatically. If you don't want to see information in that reconciliation, just come. But this is the actual reversal in your GL account, okay? We can just reverse, but that will be then giving me an issue. Okay, I have already reconciled this. Do you really want to reverse this operation? I have already reconciled. Okay, this is the idea. Okay, because this is in the end, and this is why I'm understanding as well. I understood as well that this might be a good procedure. Okay, so this is coming as well from a reconciliation where I can see my entry. Look at this. If you reverse an entry that you have posted in your GL entry, but as well you reconcile it accidentally, you're gonna get all the actual information. The GL entry is here. This is my expenses account for my fees, and here is the bank account, which is the 10100. This is my real checking bank account, but as well this entry, bank account ledger entry, is telling me that I as well reconcile this actual $30. Okay, so in the end, in order to actually reverse a transaction, is going to tell you this. Okay, the idea is that you would need, if you as well, if you can guess, thank you for, I have answered already the question, you can reverse an operation in the bank reconciliation. But if you want to reverse an operation that you know in your GL entry is wrong, please remove it from your reconciliation and then come and reverse the operation in your chart of accounts, in your GL account. Otherwise, you're gonna get this, okay, this message, because you cannot reverse an operation that is currently in your bank account reconciliation because it's a subledger. We don't want to mess around with the actual figures or unbalance my GL account with my subledger, which is my bank account. So then Business Central is protecting you to do accidentally operations that would give you then issues and error, because in the end we are reconciling. We want to have in my GL account or the actual information that is in my bank. Okay, I don't want to generate a mismatch. So basically that will be the webinar. Thank you very much for your questions. And then if you want more feedback or another webinar, I do my webinars, by the way, based on the suggestions that I received from all of you for different operations. And other part will be related to new features that we have in Business Central, what is the cloud technology. We're gonna see as well in the upcoming events as well, not only webinars, we have events where you can subscribe as well. We optionally give you invitations so you can see, for instance, we are moving now from GP to Business Central. What is the actual path, the roadmap information related to how easy or differences between GP against Business Central. And for our upcoming webinars as well, we're going to now work in our following topics. You can actually open our Optimus website. Okay, just to finish. Thank you very much for coming. It was a great webinar once again.